They call them kings, men whose signatures ripple across continents, who stand at the nexus of oil wells and algorithmic trade, who wake to reports measured not in hundreds of dollars, but in billions, and whose shadows stretch across the lives of ordinary people. We think of money when we hear the names. But this story isn't about money, it's about power, responsibility, and the thin line between them. Tonight, we follow the arcs of some of the richest Arab kings and rulers on earth, leaders whose choices shape cities overnight, whose sovereign wealth funds own pieces of your favorite apps, your city's skyscrapers, maybe even your football club. Individually, none are trillionaires. But when their states move, trillions move. And somewhere between the sand and the stars, there's a truth we all share: money can build nations, but it's people who give them meaning. Let's be honest, no single person is a trillionaire. Not yet. But here's the twist: sovereign wealth funds, giant state investment engines, are. They control staggering sums spread across ports, tech companies, energy, logistics, hospitality, and sports. And in the Arab world, many of these funds sit under the purview of kings and rulers or their closest deputies. The money is public, owned by the state, yet the power to guide it often flows through palaces and executive councils. This is the story of leaders who steward multi-generational wealth: Saudi Arabia with vast energy capacity and the Public Investment Fund, United Arab Emirates with Adia, Mubadala, and the vision to turn desert into global hubs, Qatar with QIA and a strategy of visibility, newsrooms, real estate, sports, airways, Kuwait with the oldest sovereign wealth fund, investing through cycles for decades, Morocco, Oman, Bahrain, Jordan with nuanced mixes of industry, tourism, logistics, and reform. But numbers fade. What endures is the human cost and human possibility. Tonight we will thread both. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, oil once defined the future. Today, transformation does. Think of it as steering a supertanker in a crowded sea under a sky that keeps changing color. The kingdom's energy reserves fund a vision to diversify technology, tourism, entertainment, manufacturing, sports. The scale defies imagination: new cities drawn with pencils the size of runways, stakes in global firms, a strategic push to move from producer to platform. Energy revenues, yes, but also logistics corridors, metals, digital infrastructure, hospitality, sports, and the gravitational pull of a young population impatient for the future. Custodianship of heritage, control over national direction, alliances built across tribal, religious, and global economic networks, the soft power of hosting, convening, and investing. Power is not measured by palaces, it's measured by how many young people see themselves in the skyline. The UAE built a reputation on speed and precision: airports that hum like symphonies, free zones that birth companies before lunch, towers that pierce clouds, and museums that pull past and future onto the same page. From Abu Dhabi's investment engines to Dubai's logistics ballet, the country turned geography into leverage. Sources of wealth: investment income from global portfolios, energy revenue reinvested into tech, real estate, logistics, tourism, aviation, finance, culture. Sources of power: a global brand of reliability and ambition, policy agility, the capacity to convene talent, and the choreography of capital that multiplies itself. Not everyone can shape a skyline, but everyone can shape a life, and the city becomes a mirror for both. Qatar understood the game: visibility. When you're smaller, you don't whisper, you sing. Media, sports, education hubs, high-profile stakes in global companies, moves designed not just to make money, but to write Qatar's name into the world's memory. Sources of wealth: gas exports channeled into a wide portfolio of global investments, real estate, hospitality, finance, and sport. Sources of power: soft power strategy, air corridors, global media presence, the ability to turn a game into diplomacy and a campus into a corridor for ideas. Kuwait is a lesson in patience. When you've invested through wars and oil cycles, you learn discipline. Some kingdoms build with cranes, Kuwait often builds with compounding. Sources of wealth: early, steady investment of energy proceeds into a global portfolio, equities, bonds, real assets, held over decades. Sources of power: longevity, prudence, the respect earned by those who don't need to shout to be heard. Morocco straddles worlds: Africa and Europe, tradition and modernity, craft and industry. Its power doesn't flow from oil wells but from diversity, agriculture, phosphates, automotive supply chains, tourism, renewables. Sources of wealth, industry corridors, ports like Tangamed, solar projects, tourism economies, and strategic positioning for trade. Sources of power, dynastic legitimacy, geographic leverage, cultural magnetism. Oman is a poem written in endurance, trade winds and careful stewardship, a measured pace toward diversification in logistics, mining, tourism, and fishery modernization. Sources of wealth, balanced development beyond hydrocarbons, ports, minerals, tourism, fisheries, and targeted investment. Sources of power, stability, diplomacy, and the trust earned by a reputation for mediation. Bahrain bet early on finance and succeeded through resilience. It's an economy where services sing, banking, fintech, events, logistics, small scale, sharp edges. Sources of wealth, financial services, manufacturing, aluminum, events, logistics. Sources of power, regulatory agility, a regional role in finance, and the trust sustained by persistence. Jordan carries burdens and builds hopes, limited resources, immense hospitality, strategic location. Its wealth is talent, its power is partnership. Sources of wealth, services, tourism, pharmaceuticals, tech startups, education, remittances, strategic support. Sources of power, diplomatic influence, military professionalism, moral capital earned through steadiness. Numbers lie when they stand alone. A king's net worth is often personal wealth plus influence over state assets, legally distinct, politically intertwined. Think of it like this: a conductor does not own the orchestra but can command symphonies that move the world. That's why the term trillionaire belongs here, not as a literal label, but as a measure of consequences, of capital that turns into runways and regulations, scholarships and shipyards. Power doesn't float. It rests on pillars: legitimacy, tradition, religion, and nationhood. Security, borders, alliances, deterrence. Economy, energy, industry, investment. Narrative, the story a nation tells itself, about who it has been and who it will become. People, demography, education, opportunity. Here's the paradox of wealth: the more it scales, the more granular its responsibilities become. Trillion-scale funds mean billion-scale decisions, yet the justice of those choices is measured at the scale of a single household budget. Dependence is danger, on a commodity, on a single trade route, on a single story. The richest kings know this and diversify: metals beyond oil, code beyond crude, skills beyond borders. The question isn't, how rich is the king? It's, how resilient is the kingdom? Faces of the crown. Let's meet the human side of the throne, the rulers whose decisions touch the world. Saudi Arabia, a custodian king and a modernizing drive that channels energy wealth into megaprojects, tech, manufacturing, and sports, seeking a future beyond oil. United Arab Emirates, a federation that turned ambition into a system, global investments, logistics, culture, and spacefaring dreams. Qatar, a small peninsula with a global voice, media, sports, and strategic stakes that carry its name across oceans. Kuwait, the long investor, quiet compounding across decades. Morocco, the bridge, industrial corridors, ports, renewables, and heritage. Oman, the mediator, stability, ports, and patient diversification. Bahrain, the financier, services, manufacturing, and endurance. Jordan, the steady compass, diplomacy, talent, and service economies. Behind every title is a calendar full of family moments missed, decisions made under pressure, and the fatigue that even kings cannot outsource. Trillion-dollar influence becomes real only when the state invests in a person. A scholarship realized, a startup funded, a vocational program that turns a teenager into a technician whose hands feed a family. If you're watching this in a one-room apartment, phone balanced on a chipped mug, remember, the compounding that built sovereign funds can build a life. One skill learned, one mentor found, one habit formed, done daily. The ethics of a golden age. Wealth without ethics is architecture without foundations. The richest kings are measured not by personal accounts, but by how their nations treat the smallest voice in the room. A just nation doesn't happen by accident. It's drafted, revised, and enforced every day. Lessons for the rest of US. You don't need oil wells to build wealth. You need a base asset, your skill, a sovereign fund, your savings rate, a national strategy, your personal plan, what to build, what to own, what to avoid. Alliances, mentors, peers, communities. Soft power, your reputation, delivered through reliability and generosity. Write down one skill you can monetize in 30 days. List 3 people who can hold you accountable. Set a micro-sovereign wealth fund. Target, save 15% for 90 days. Reinvest your time dividend into learning. Sport, culture, and the new soft power. From football clubs to film funds, sport and culture are the modern Silk Roads. They move attention, tourism, and pride. They also move debates about identity, labor, and the responsibilities that ride along with fame. When your team signs a star funded by a sovereign investor, you feel it on Derby Day. That's geopolitics in your living room. The richest Arab kingdoms face a paradox. They built their strength on hydrocarbons and now must lead a transition beyond them. That's not hypocrisy, it's history working correctly. Those closest to the old engine must build the new one. Imagine a decade from now, a grid cleaner than the sky after rain, mines that meet the highest standards, cities that breathe. That's the trillion-dollar challenge worthy of a crown. The camera doesn't see what power costs. It doesn't catch the sleeplessness or the calculus of risk where every decision is a blade. The richest kings carry a burden that cannot be divided. The nation sleeps, the leader reads the next brief. Myth, wealth is a vault. Truth, wealth is a flow of trust, trade, and talent. Myth, power is possession. Truth, power is permission, constantly renewed by results. Myth, trillionaire, means one man. Truth, it means a million lives braided into a state. Let those with crowns remember, a child's first day at school is more important than any ribbon cut on a tower. A passport stamped for the first time beats any portfolio return. The arc of a nation rises when the arc of a person's life does. You watching this, yes, you. Don't wait for a sovereign fund to choose you. Choose yourself. Learn a high-value skill. Ship something small. Save more than you did last month. If you're in Lagos, Cairo, Dubai, Riyadh, Oman, or Casablanca, your city is a classroom. Audit every street. You don't need a throne. You need a routine. We began with sand slipping through fingers, an ancient metaphor for time. But time can be held, for a moment, when we build something that outlives us. A school, a port, a codebase, a kindness. The richest Arab kings on earth are not measured by ledgers but by legacies, by whether the light they set in motion shines on faces, not just facades. Trillions will circulate, but the crown's true currency is dignity. If this gave you a new lens on power, tap subscribe. We make big stories feel personal, and we show you how to turn lessons into action. Comment where you're watching from and what wealth means in your city. Your story might be the next episode.